What if I told you that Iran, once known as Persia in the Bible, holds a crucial role in the unfolding events of the end times? Imagine a nation that not only dominates today's geopolitical headlines but has been intertwined in a divine narrative spanning thousands of years. From the days of the ancient Persian Empire, which played a pivotal role in Israel's history, to modern-day Iran challenging the West, could it be that the Bible already predicted what's happening today? In this video, we'll dive deep into the prophetic texts of the Bible, particularly the books of Daniel and Ezekiel, to uncover what they say about Iran's future. As tensions escalate in the Middle East, alliances are shifting, and the world's eyes are on Iran. But is it all part of a plan written centuries ago? How do ancient prophecies align with today's events? Could we be on the brink of witnessing something far greater than just another geopolitical conflict? Join us as we unravel the mysteries hidden in the scriptures, compare them to the unfolding realities, and ask the question, is it all just coincidence, or is prophecy being fulfilled before our very eyes? Stay tuned as we uncover the hidden connections between Iran's future and the Bible's predictions. This is a journey into history, faith, and the uncertain future of our world. Part 1. Historical and religious context. The story of ancient Persia is deeply interwoven with the history and prophecies of the Bible, painting a vivid picture of a nation that was not only a powerful empire but also a significant player in God's divine plan for Israel. To understand why Iran, known as Persia in biblical times, holds such a central role in biblical prophecy, we must first explore its profound impact on the events that shaped Israel's past. In the 6th century BCE, the Babylonian Empire was at its height, and under the rule of King Nebuchadnezzar, Jerusalem was conquered. The Babylonian forces destroyed the magnificent temple built by King Solomon, a structure that stood as the heart of Jewish worship. The Jewish people were taken into captivity, exiled to Babylon, and found themselves longing for their homeland. This period of forced exile, known as the Babylonian captivity, lasted for 70 long years. During this time, the Jewish people were not only separated from their land, but also from their temple, which was the focal point of their religious identity. However, the course of history took a dramatic turn with the rise of the Persian Empire, led by the visionary conqueror, Cyrus the Great. In 539 BCE, Cyrus achieved what seemed impossible at the time. He conquered the mighty Babylonian Empire, bringing it to its knees. But Cyrus was no ordinary conqueror. His approach to leadership was revolutionary. Rather than ruling with an iron fist, he was known for his policies of tolerance and respect for the customs and religions of the lands he conquered. This unique approach is highlighted in the Bible, where Cyrus is portrayed not merely as a powerful king, but as a chosen instrument of God's will. The Bible goes so far as to refer to Cyrus as the Lord's anointed in the book of Isaiah. This is particularly striking because the term anointed was traditionally reserved for Jewish kings chosen by God. Yet, here was a foreign king, a pagan by Israelite standards, being used by God to fulfill his divine plan. According to the biblical narrative, Cyrus issued a decree that allowed the Jewish exiles to return to Jerusalem, marking the end of their captivity. Not only did he permit their return, but he also provided resources to rebuild the temple that had been destroyed decades earlier. This act of generosity and support for the Jewish people was unprecedented and is seen by many scholars as a fulfillment of the prophecy given by the prophet Jeremiah, who foretold that the exile would last 70 years. The impact of Persia on the Jewish people did not end with Cyrus. The story of Esther, which unfolds during the reign of King Xerxes I, also known as Ahasuerus, reveals another crucial chapter in the relationship between Persia and the Jews. According to the biblical account, Esther, a Jewish woman who rose to become queen, played a heroic role in preventing the genocide of her people within the vast Persian Empire. The Book of Esther is a tale of intrigue, courage, and divine intervention, where the fate of the Jewish people hung in the balance. Esther's bravery, along with the guidance of her cousin Mordecai, saved the Jewish people from the hands of Haman, a high-ranking official who had plotted their destruction. This story illustrates the complex and multifaceted relationship between the Jews and the Persian rulers, one that was marked by both danger and deliverance. But the influence of Persia extends beyond these historical narratives into the realm of prophecy. In the prophetic visions recorded in the book of Daniel, Persia is symbolized by a powerful ram representing the Medo-Persian Empire that would rise to overthrow Babylon. Daniel's visions not only spoke of the empire's ascendancy, but also hinted at the spiritual forces at play behind the scenes. One of the most enigmatic passages in the book of Daniel involves an angelic messenger who explains to Daniel that he had been delayed for 21 days by the prince of Persia. This mysterious figure has led many scholars to believe that Persia was not only significant in the earthly realm, but also had a deep spiritual significance, with angelic and demonic forces contending for influence over its destiny. The prophetic significance of Persia reaches its climax in the book of Ezekiel, particularly in chapters 38 and 39. These chapters describe a future time when Persia will align itself with other nations in a coalition led by a mysterious figure named Gog of Magog. According to Ezekiel, this alliance will rise against Israel in a climactic battle in the latter days. For centuries, scholars and theologians have pondered over the identity of Gog and the significance of this coalition. The inclusion of Persia in this prophecy suggests that, even in the distant future, the nation that we know today as Iran will continue to play a pivotal role in the unfolding of biblical events. As we look back at the history of Persia, we see that it was more than just a mighty empire of the past. It was a nation intricately connected to God's plan for His people, Israel. From the benevolent actions of Cyrus the Great, who was seen as an instrument of divine providence, to the heroic intervention of Queen Esther, Persia's legacy is one of both profound impact and divine mystery. The prophetic texts that speak of Persia's future role in the end times add another layer of complexity to this ancient nation story. It is a story that is far from over, and as current events unfold in the Middle East, many are left wondering whether the ancient prophecies are slowly coming to pass before our eyes. By examining these historical and biblical connections, we gain a deeper understanding of why Persia, now known as Iran, remains a focal point of interest for both historians and theologians. The echoes of its past continue to resonate today, reminding us that the stories of old may still hold secrets about the future. Part 2. The Prophecies of Ezekiel and Iran's Role in the End Times. As we transition from the rich historical context of Persia to the prophetic visions described in the Bible, we begin to see how the ancient narrative intertwines with modern events. In the prophetic books, particularly the writings of Ezekiel, Persia is not just a historical footnote, but a key player in the events that are believed to unfold during the end times. According to biblical scholars, the role of Persia in these prophecies is profound, casting Iran into the spotlight of eschatological interpretations. The book of Ezekiel, written during the Babylonian exile, is known for its vivid and symbolic visions. In chapters 38 and 39, the prophet Ezekiel presents a dramatic prophecy that has captivated theologians and believers for centuries. This prophecy speaks of a future battle known as the War of Gog and Magog, where a coalition of nations will unite to attack Israel. Ezekiel lists the nations involved in this alliance, and among them is Persia, which is identified alongside other formidable powers such as Magog, which is often interpreted to refer to a northern nation, frequently associated with Russia in modern interpretations. The prophecy in Ezekiel 38 verse 5 explicitly names Persia as one of the allies of Gog in the invasion of Israel. This invasion, however, is not just a military conflict. It is depicted as a climactic showdown between the forces of darkness and the chosen people of God. According to Ezekiel, this coalition will come against Israel like a storm with a vast army, intending to destroy and plunder. The imagery is both terrifying and awe-inspiring, as it describes a time of great peril for Israel, where its enemies converge in an attempt to wipe it off the map. Yet, the prophecy takes an unexpected turn. Despite the overwhelming might of this coalition, Ezekiel foresees that it will not be Israel's military prowess that saves them, but rather divine intervention. The Bible describes how God himself will rise to defend Israel, using supernatural forces to thwart the enemies. In Ezekiel 38 verses 18 to 23, it is said that God will unleash earthquakes, hailstones, fire, and brimstone to devastate the invading armies. The prophecy emphasizes that this intervention will be so miraculous and undeniable that the nations of the world will recognize God's power. This act of divine protection is seen as a pivotal moment in the end times narrative, showcasing God's unwavering commitment to his covenant with Israel. The role of Persia, Iran, in this prophecy has sparked significant debate among scholars, especially in the context of current geopolitical dynamics. Today, Iran stands as a powerful nation in the Middle East, known for its complex and often contentious relationships with Western nations, particularly the United States and Israel. Iran's military influence extends through proxy groups in Lebanon, Syria, and beyond, positioning itself as a significant player in the region. This modern reality has led some to speculate whether the alliances described in Ezekiel are slowly taking shape in the present day. Could the current partnerships between Iran, Russia, and other nations be a precursor to the prophetic coalition described by Ezekiel? However, it's crucial to approach these interpretations with caution. While the parallels between the biblical prophecy and today's geopolitical landscape may seem striking, many scholars urge against drawing definitive conclusions. Prophecies, by their nature, are often symbolic and open to various interpretations. The inclusion of Persia in Ezekiel's vision may reflect more than just a literal alliance. It could also symbolize the enduring opposition that Israel has faced throughout its history. Nevertheless, for those who believe in the literal fulfillment of biblical prophecies, the current tensions in the Middle East provide a compelling backdrop against which these ancient predictions are being revisited. As tensions continue to rise between Israel and Iran, with both sides engaged in a complex web of military strategies, intelligence operations, and regional alliances, it is not difficult to see why many are turning to the Bible for answers. The alignment of nations, the build-up of military forces, and the ongoing conflicts in Syria and Lebanon have led some to speculate that we may be on the cusp of witnessing the fulfillment of Ezekiel's prophecy. Yet, it is essential to remember that biblical prophecies are often multi-layered, serving as both historical commentary and spiritual metaphor. The book of Ezekiel, with its dramatic portrayal of the end times, offers not just a vision of conflict, but also a message of hope. While it speaks of the gathering storm of nations against Israel, it ultimately underscores the theme of divine deliverance. The prophecy concludes with the powerful image of God's intervention, where the forces of destruction are turned upon themselves, leading to their downfall. For believers, this narrative serves as a reminder of God's sovereignty and his protection over his people, even in the most dire of circumstances. Today, as we watch the unfolding of events in the Middle East, it is tempting to draw connections between ancient texts and modern-day headlines. However, the true message of Ezekiel's prophecy goes beyond the specifics of geopolitics. It challenges us to reflect on the deeper spiritual realities at play, reminding us that, regardless of the turmoil and conflict in the world, there is a divine plan that transcends human understanding. In the end, the inclusion of Persia in the end times narrative is a testament to the timeless relevance of the Bible's teachings. It invites us to consider the possibility that the past and future are interconnected in ways that we may not fully comprehend. As we navigate the complexities of the present day, the prophetic words of Ezekiel offer a profound reminder that, while nations rise and fall, there is a higher purpose that guides the course of history. Whether or not we are witnessing the fulfillment of these ancient prophecies, the enduring message remains clear. There is hope beyond the horizon, a hope that lies not in the power of nations, but in the hands of the divine. Part 3. Connecting biblical prophecy to current geopolitical realities. As we move from the ancient prophecies of Ezekiel and Daniel to the present day, it becomes increasingly clear that the Middle East remains a focal point of global tension. The question that fascinates many scholars, theologians, and even geopolitical analysts is whether we are witnessing the fulfillment of biblical prophecies right before our eyes. Iran, once known as the mighty empire of Persia, is now a central player in the shifting power dynamics of the region. To understand how these ancient texts might align with current events, we need to explore how the actions of Iran today might relate to the prophetic visions described in the Bible. Over the past few decades, Iran has positioned itself as a significant force in the Middle East, often in opposition to Western powers and, more specifically, to Israel. The country has invested heavily in its military capabilities, developing a robust network of proxy groups throughout the region, including Hezbollah in Lebanon, various militias in Iraq, and its influence in Syria. This expansion of power mirrors the prophetic warnings found in Ezekiel, where Persia is named among the nations that will rise against Israel in the latter days. The Bible describes this coalition as an alliance that will gather to attack Israel like a storm, intending to destroy and plunder. What makes this prophecy even more intriguing is the current geopolitical alliances we see forming today. Iran's growing partnership with Russia and its strategic ties with Turkey align with the nations mentioned in Ezekiel's prophecy. In recent years, we have seen a noticeable increase in cooperation between these countries, particularly in the areas of military coordination and regional influence. For example, Russia and Iran have been collaborating closely in Syria, supporting the Assad regime and securing their interests in the region. This partnership has led some to speculate whether we are seeing the early stages of the prophesied coalition described in Ezekiel 38-39. Yet, while the connections may seem striking, it's crucial to approach these parallels with a balanced perspective. There have been numerous interpretations of these biblical prophecies throughout history, with each generation seeing signs of fulfillment in their own time. In the Cold War era, many believed that the rise of the Soviet Union was a clear sign of the coming of Gog and Magog. Today, with the shifting dynamics in the Middle East, the focus has shifted to Iran and its alliances. However, it is essential to acknowledge that prophecy, by its nature, is often symbolic and open to multiple interpretations. One of the key elements of Ezekiel's prophecy is the notion of a divine intervention. The Bible predicts that, despite the overwhelming strength of the coalition against Israel, it will not be Israel's military might that saves them. Instead, it will be God's direct intervention through natural disasters, earthquakes, hail, fire, and brimstone that will turn the tide of battle. This supernatural deliverance is a theme that resonates throughout the prophetic books of the Bible, reminding believers that no matter how powerful the earthly forces may seem, there is a higher power at work. From a contemporary perspective, the idea of divine intervention may not align with the geopolitical strategies and military tactics that dominate today's conflicts. Yet, the persistence of Israel as a nation, despite being surrounded by adversaries, continues to astonish observers. The tiny nation has faced numerous wars, conflicts, and threats to its existence, yet it remains resilient. For some, this resilience is seen as evidence of a divine hand at work, while others view it as a testament to the strategic ingenuity and determination of the Israeli people. The current state of affairs between Israel and Iran is a perfect example of the tension that Ezekiel's prophecy seems to allude to. Iran's vocal stance against Israel, including its calls for the destruction of the Jewish state, and its ongoing support for proxy groups that actively oppose Israel, fit the narrative of an ancient animosity that has endured through the centuries. Iran's pursuit of nuclear capabilities further heightens the stakes, leading to concerns about a potential preemptive strike by Israel to neutralize what it sees as an existential threat. US intelligence reports have suggested that Israel has already prepared contingency plans to strike Iran's nuclear facilities should the need arise. However, while the Bible's prophecy speaks of a massive conflict, it also assures that such a war will ultimately end in divine intervention. The nations that come against Israel will be struck down, not by human hands, but by the forces of nature commanded by God. For believers, this offers a message of hope and reassurance that, no matter how dire the situation appears, the outcome is ultimately in the hands of the divine. This theme of divine protection has been a cornerstone of Jewish and Christian faith for millennia, serving as a reminder that history is not solely in the hands of men, but is guided by a higher power. As we reflect on the Prophecies and their potential connections to current events, it's important to keep in mind that these are complex issues that go beyond simple interpretations. The interplay of politics, religion, and prophecy is not easily disentangled. While it is tempting to draw direct lines between ancient texts and today's headlines, doing so requires caution and humility. The Bible's prophecies are profound, layered with meanings that may not be fully understood until they come to pass. In the end, the role of Iran, or ancient Persia, in the biblical end times narrative is not just about predicting the future, but about understanding the enduring themes of conflict, faith, and divine justice. As we observe the developments in the Middle East, we are reminded that while the world may seem chaotic, there is a deeper story unfolding, one that transcends nations and empires. For those who believe, it serves as both a warning and a call to remain vigilant, to seek peace, and to trust in the ultimate sovereignty of God. Whether the prophecies are fulfilled in our lifetime or in some distant future, the message remains: the events of this world are but a prelude to a greater reality yet to be revealed. Part 4: The Spiritual Lessons and Reflections for Today. As we reach the conclusion of this exploration into the biblical prophecies and their connections to present-day events, it's essential to shift our focus from the geopolitical to the spiritual. While the unfolding dynamics between Iran, Israel, and other nations captivate our attention, it is crucial to remember that the core message of these ancient texts is not solely about predicting wars or alliances. Instead, it is about imparting deeper spiritual truths and guiding believers through times of uncertainty. The prophetic scriptures are ultimately more concerned with the condition of our hearts than with the political machinations of the world. Throughout the Bible, the narrative of prophecy serves as both a warning and an invitation. It is a warning that reminds us of the inevitable consequences of turning away from divine principles, of allowing pride, greed, and enmity to govern our actions. The nations described in Ezekiel's prophecies, including Persia, are portrayed as entities driven by a thirst for conquest and power. But the real battle is not just a physical one, it is a battle for the soul, a conflict between darkness and light, faith and disbelief. This spiritual struggle is as relevant today as it was in the ancient world. In the context of our modern lives, what do these prophecies mean for us? Are they merely historical records or blueprints of future events, or do they carry a timeless message that transcends the boundaries of time and culture? For many believers, the prophecies of Ezekiel, Daniel, and Revelation serve as reminders of the sovereignty of God over all nations and rulers. They emphasize that, no matter how powerful a nation may seem, it is ultimately subject to the divine will. This perspective can offer comfort in a world where chaos and conflict often seem to dominate the headlines. Today, as tensions between nations escalate and uncertainty looms, the call to believers is clear: remain vigilant, faithful, and rooted in spiritual wisdom. The words of Jesus in Matthew 24 verse 42 urge us to keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. The Bible does not merely encourage us to anticipate the unfolding of end times events, it calls us to live lives of purpose, compassion, and spiritual readiness. While we cannot control the actions of nations or predict the outcome of global conflicts, we can control our responses to the challenges of our time. In reflecting on the prophecy of Ezekiel, there is a powerful lesson about divine intervention in the face of overwhelming odds. God's promise to protect Israel from the forces of Gog and Magog is not just a narrative of military victory, but a metaphor for the triumph of good over evil. It is a reminder that, even when we face seemingly insurmountable challenges, there is a power beyond our own that can bring deliverance. For believers, this assurance is not limited to national or global conflicts. It applies to the personal battles we face every day, battles of faith, doubt, fear, and temptation. The prophetic texts also challenge us to look beyond the immediate and focus on the eternal. As we are bombarded daily with news of conflicts, economic uncertainty, and social upheaval, it can be easy to become anxious or disheartened. But the Bible invites us to see beyond the turmoil and recognize that these events are part of a larger divine plan. The message is not one of despair but of hope, urging us to remain steadfast and faithful. One of the most powerful takeaways from these prophecies is the call to unity and love. Despite the divisions we see today, whether they are political, cultural, or religious, the biblical narrative consistently points toward reconciliation, not just between God and humanity, but among people themselves. As the world faces new challenges, from climate change to social justice issues, the principles of compassion, empathy, and forgiveness become more vital than ever. The prophecies may describe battles and conflicts, but they ultimately point towards a future where peace and righteousness prevail. Moreover, the Bible encourages us to be agents of change, to be lights in a world that often seems overshadowed by darkness. The end times are not just about waiting for events to unfold, but about actively participating in God's work of healing and restoration. As the book of James reminds us, faith without works is dead, James 2 verse 26. Thus, while we watch and wait, we are also called to act, to extend kindness to those in need, to speak out for justice, and to live lives that reflect the teachings of Christ. In conclusion, while the prophecies about Persia, Gog, and Magog may seem ominous, they are ultimately messages of hope. They remind us that, regardless of what happens on the world stage, there is a divine purpose that cannot be thwarted. As we watch the unfolding events with anticipation and perhaps even concern, we must not lose sight of the spiritual call to remain faithful, hopeful, and active in our pursuit of a life that honors God. The true essence of prophecy is not to predict the future with absolute certainty, but to inspire us to live more intentionally and to remind us that, in the end, God's love and justice will prevail. This is the enduring message of the Bible. While nations rise and fall, while alliances shift and conflicts erupt, the promise of God's kingdom remains unshakable. And so, as we navigate these uncertain times, let us do so with courage, hope, and unwavering faith, knowing that the ultimate victory belongs not to the powers of this world, but to the one who reigns above all. Part 5, Conclusion and Call to Reflection. As we reach the end of this journey through the prophetic scriptures and their possible connections to our modern world, it becomes clear that the messages within the Bible are not just relics of a distant past. They are timeless, speaking to the deepest questions we have about our future, our purpose, and our faith. While the prophecies regarding Persia or modern-day Iran and the foretelling of alliances and conflicts may seem daunting, they ultimately carry a deeper spiritual significance that transcends mere geopolitical events. Throughout this exploration, we've uncovered how ancient prophecies, written thousands of years ago, continue to resonate today. But it's important to remember that these scriptures were not given to simply forewarn us of future conflicts. They were meant to guide us, to anchor our souls in times of uncertainty, and to remind us of a higher purpose beyond the chaos of this world. In a world that often feels unpredictable and tumultuous, it's easy to get caught up in the fear and anxiety of what might happen next. However, the prophecies in Ezekiel, Daniel, and Revelation are not just about destruction and doom. They are ultimately about hope and divine intervention. They reveal a God who is intimately involved in the course of human history, guiding it towards a greater purpose that we may not fully understand, but can trust in. For those of us who believe, these ancient texts are more than just historical records or poetic imagery. They are a call to live with greater intentionality, to be vigilant in our faith, and to prepare our hearts for whatever may come. The Bible speaks of a time when nations will rise and fall, alliances will shift, and conflicts will erupt. But amidst all this turmoil, there is an unchanging promise that God's love, justice, and sovereignty will ultimately prevail. So, what do these prophecies mean for us today? First, they challenge us to reflect on our own lives. Are we living with the awareness that there is more to this world than what we see? Are we preparing not just for the future of nations, but for the state of our souls? The Bible calls us to be watchful, not in fear, but in faith, to keep our lamps burning, ready for the return of the one who promises to set all things right. Second, these prophecies remind us to seek peace and to be peacemakers in a world torn by division. While we may not have control over the actions of nations or the unfolding of global events, we do have control over how we respond to the people around us. The call to love, to forgive, and to show compassion is more urgent than ever. In a world that seems to be growing darker, we are called to be lights, reflecting the love and truth of Christ to all we encounter. Finally, as we look at the unfolding events in the Middle East and beyond, let us not forget the central message of the Bible, that history is not random, it is moving towards a divine conclusion. For believers, this is not a cause for fear but for hope. We are not merely spectators in this world, we are participants in a story that is much larger than ourselves. As Jesus said in Matthew 24 verse 6, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed." Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. And so, as we close this discussion, we invite you to reflect on what you've heard. How do these ancient prophecies resonate with you today? What do they inspire you to change in your own life? We encourage you to dig deeper, to read the scriptures, and to seek the truth with an open heart. If this video has sparked your curiosity or given you new insights, we would love to hear your thoughts. Please leave a comment below and share your perspective on the role of prophecy in our modern world. How do you see these ancient words aligning with today's events? Are we witnessing the unfolding of a divine plan, or are we simply interpreting history through the lens of faith? Thank you for joining us on this journey through the pages of the Bible and the corridors of time. If you found this content valuable, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who may benefit from these reflections. Remember, as we navigate the uncertainties of our world, we are not alone. There is a higher purpose, a greater hope, and a divine hand that guides us. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay hopeful, and keep your eyes on the eternal horizon. May peace and wisdom guide you as you continue to seek the truth,